Today, I'm going to teach you how to set goals to be fluent in English. I'll answer questions like, how many goals should you have? And when should you set these goals? And more. Welcome to English Coach 3Ts. I'm Tanya. And when I was thinking about this topic, it reminded me of the 5 W questions we learn in English in grade school and the bonus question, how? And I was thinking about how helpful these questions actually are. So the question words are, as you can see here, who, what, when, where, why, and then we have our bonus question, how. I'm curious, did you learn something like this in your native language to help you remember the question words? So today we're going to answer these questions about setting goals. So let's start with number 1, who? We could ask ourselves, who are these goals for? It's very important to remember that you are setting goals for you. Of course, it's helpful to get help from other people. It can be helpful to get input on how other people are setting their goals, or to talk with people like myself who are coaches and have been trained to help people set goals. And ultimately, in the end, these have to be goals that work for you. So what I would suggest is when you're asking these questions, when you're talking to other people, do that in order to gather information. But if it is something that just doesn't work for you, it doesn't seem right, maybe you will consider another way. I will say that sometimes someone has a suggestion that feels a little uncomfortable. A little discomfort might be something that will be helpful to you, but maybe you're a little nervous about it or a little scared about it. As long as it's not way outside the idea of something you would do, outside what you consider to be appropriate, you might want to give it a try. Try it just for a short time and see if this is something that will work for you. The second question, what? There's a few ways we could make this question. What are these goals for? What are the goals? Let's stick with what are the goals, or you could say, what goals should I set? It is really important to think about setting goals for learning English in 4 areas: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Now, these goals won't all be the same, and there are going to be a lot of things that you need to consider. The bottom line is you need to practice all 4 of these goals to become more fluent. The next question, when? I think it's important to look at this question. Ultimately, you want to set goals when you start learning and when you have achieved other goals and you're ready for a new goal. You'll hear a lot of people online talking about goals at the end of the year and also at the beginning of the year. This is because this is something that is very traditional here in the United States and in other countries. But keep in mind that this is not the only time you're setting goals. It's not necessarily the best time. There's nothing wrong with setting goals at the beginning of the year. In fact, I set my goals at the beginning of the year. I begin to think about what I accomplished throughout the year and what I want to do for the next year in December. And then in January, I solidify those goals and make sure I have them written down, take a look at them, and make sure it is something that matches all the criteria, all the information for what I want to achieve. Having said that, it's important that you have goals throughout the year, goals that are short-term goals, long-term goals, and goals in between. Number 4, where didn't seem like it applied to this topic at first, like where are my goals? Where should I set the goals? Those questions didn't seem to apply, except for when you think about where you should keep your goals, because keeping your goals in your head might work for a few people, but for most people, we need to write our goals down and keep them in a place where we can access them easily. In other words, where we can get them and look at them or see them. I suggest you write your goals down by hand. There's something about writing by hand that works with our mind differently than when we type things. And I suggest you write it in a notebook or on a piece of paper and put it somewhere where you will see it often. Studies have shown that when you write your goals on a piece of paper, you have a 70% greater chance of achieving these goals. I say this a lot in my classes. And the reason I say this is, to me, this is like a freebie. What I mean by that is, just by writing these goals down, I have a greater chance of achieving the goals. That's something I can do pretty easily. So I am the kind of person who writes my goals down in my calendar. This is starting to be a little obsolete. In other words, I don't use a paper calendar anymore. So this coming year, I might do it a little differently. However, I do write my goals down. I do come back to them. I do look and see if they need little changes or tweaks, and I set new goals as I go throughout the year. If you're wondering where to get more information about goals and becoming fluent, our She Speaks program is a community of women who have an intermediate to advanced level of English, learning together and working on goals and all the things you need to become fluent. If you'd like to join the wait list, click on the link you see on your screen or down in the description. I've already talked a little bit about number 5, why, which is that when you write down goals, you have a greater chance to achieve them. Let's talk a little bit about how this works. When you're learning a language and you want to get from here to there, and it is a long journey like language learning is, it's easy to get off track, or in other words, you're not actually moving towards where you want to be. Setting goals is a good way to make yourself aware of what you need to do, what you are doing to get from here to there. Now, I also think that we have to be a little flexible with setting our goals, because as this is a long journey, a lot changes over time. For me, in my second language learning journey, technology has changed. I've changed. Where I live has changed. How my schedule is from day to day has changed. So this idea of setting goals has changed a lot as I have progressed on the journey, and you're going to want to consider this too. One of my key words that I like to teach students is set goals with flexibility. There are many, many things that I could teach you about setting goals. A lot of it is in this video, but you want to remember this key point, which is be flexible. You can always renegotiate your goal, meaning that if you set this goal, it doesn't have to stay exactly like this. There may be many reasons that it will change, and whatever those reasons are, you are the one who decides whether or not it's a good idea. Let's talk about that bonus question, how? This is a huge topic. You could learn a lot about setting goals, which is why there are people who go to school to become coaches to help you set goals that work best for you. I've talked a lot about some of the most important things here today. My best advice to you on how to set goals right now is to make sure that you're covering all the things we talked about here And then once you've done that, you might want to consider hiring a coach to help you. I have a coach who helps me with my goals, even though I'm a coach. Or you might want to do a little more research into how to set goals effectively. Now that you've learned a lot about setting goals and you're ready to find out some of the best ways to learn English, take a look at this video where I'll tell you what some of the best practices are so you can make sure you're including them in your goal setting. I'll see you there. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Who, what, where, when, blah, blah, blah.